This is the One Girl Revolution podcast, a podcast that highlights the stories of world-changing women and girls across the country. We hope that these stories inspire you, but even more so, we hope that these stories help you to see your own value, your purpose, and your power to change the world through your life. Every woman and girl is a One Girl Revolution. Hello, and welcome back to the One Girl Revolution podcast. It's your girl, Kate, here. This podcast is all about everyday women and girls who are changing the world through their lives. Women who turn their pain into purpose, who find strength through struggle, and who use their own stories to bring hope and healing to others. And that is exactly what today's guest, Sara Rian, has done. Sara is a writer, a poet, a therapist who has built a life and a body of work centered on healing, grief, and love. She's the author of several deeply moving books, including Then Death Came, Find Me There, Loving the Gone, We Are Carried, and more. Through her writing, her work as a therapist, and the way she shares so honestly about her own journey, Sara helps others find light in the darkness and beauty in the broken places. Sara's story is one of profound loss and radical transformation. In 2018, Sara lost her mother to suicide, a moment that reshaped her world. That grief became a catalyst, pulling her more deeply into writing, into therapy, into using words as both refuge and revelation. The pain she experienced is not something she hides. It's a part of her story. And through poetry and storytelling, she has given it a voice. She's shown us, and she shows us every single day, that our most broken parts often hold the keys to our purpose. Because Sara is also a therapist, she beautifully bridges the emotional and the clinical, the poetic and the healing, in a way that invites us to lean into vulnerability without shame. Sara helps us see that grief, mental health, and love are not separate. They intersect, inform one another, and they can lead us towards deeper authenticity. A part of our Every Woman, Every Girl campaign, which affirms that every woman's voice and every woman's story matters. I can't think of a more powerful guest than Sara. Her story, her courage, and her craft embody that truth, that reality. In today's conversation, Sara shares about her upbringing, the devastation of loss, how she turned toward writing, how therapy became part of her path, and how she holds space for others through those dual roles. So get ready. We're diving in deep in this conversation. We are holding space for all of you. We are living fully and we're healing together. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Sara. Sara, welcome to the One Girl Revolution podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I am so excited to have you on. I feel like this is a long time coming because I am such a big fan of all the work that you do, but really who you are as a person. I love following everything that you share on Instagram, and you and I have gotten to know each other in person, and I've heard you speak, and I just am so blown away by you, your story, and just everything that you are and everything that you stand for. So I'm just so honored and so excited to share your story and your wisdom and a little bit about your life with our listeners. So thank you again for making the time.
Oh, I appreciate it. This is something that this feels like a pleasure for me. This is more exciting for me probably than anybody. So thank you.
Yeah, well, I would love for you to tell our listeners just a little bit about who you are, a little bit about your work. I know that you're a writer, you're a therapist, but if you could just introduce yourself to our listeners, I'd just love for you to do that.
Yes. Well, um, I was gonna say, I'm like, those are like my huge identities. So I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I have two daughters, two little ones, almost 4 and almost 3. I've grown up in Michigan. I went to Michigan State. I got, did the whole route for therapy, all of that. And then just kind of started dabbling in poetry. And I guess, yeah, I guess I call myself a writer now. I'm still trying to figure out that whole identity and what to even say there. But Yeah, my actual career is therapy, and then writing has been like this side thing, hobby, passion, kind of built this whole community online. So, yeah, wearing a few different hats right now.
So let's rewind for a second. I know that you grew up in Michigan, and I
Yeah.
know that I love, like, in our stories, how sometimes there's a thread that sort of leads us on our path. And I know that you and I both have multiple threads and different things that happened in our lives that changed the trajectory or changed the things that you care about or opened up opportunities for us to be better or be an example or help other people. And I know that that is so much a part of your story and who you are. But I would love to rewind for a second and hear just a little bit about your story, your journey, like growing up. What was that like? And were there threads in your early life that kind of led you to becoming a writer and becoming a therapist? Or was that more in your adult life?
That was much younger. Yes, that was actually so I grew up with like my childhood was so good, and when I talk about it to other people, they're like, "Oh my gosh, that sounds kind of chaotic," or it sounds like kind of non-traditional in a way. So I have three siblings. There are three fathers between the four of us, but we were raised as whole siblings. I never considered them half, or how some people will say we were raised completely as full siblings. My mom had been married 5 times, divorced 5 times, so I've had a few stepdads, but we were all like family. Like even after divorces, if it was the father of my little sister or the father of my older sister, my brother and I share the same dad. We were all just. It was kind of like everyone's kind of a dad, and we all stayed close. And I had step siblings, and we all stay in contact. So it sounds a little wild, but we were very loved, and we were cared for, and we were very close with my grandmother and, my grandpa who's still living and my uncles. And it was just, yeah, we were kind of all over the place growing up in Michigan and staying in Metro Detroit our whole lives. And, I was very close with my mom, but there were times where I was living full time with my dad. So yeah, it sounds a little crazy when I talk about it with other people. Well, we were very loved. My mom and dad are both, my mom was, my dad is very good with words. I didn't quite know how good my dad was with words until now, more present, but my mom was more of the person that I'd watch write, and she loved writing poetry, and she'd write us the sweetest love notes, and we always had letters and cards, and she had such a way with words. And I think all of us, my siblings and I, picked up on that and are very good with our words and expressing love and expressing the way we feel or how we care about somebody. So I was writing like little poems when I was little about ridiculous things. The other day, I was sitting with my husband and I found like love poems to like boys in elementary school, like so embarrassing. So I must have been doing this a long time and then just stopped and then probably like didn't pick it back up again until I was 28. So, yeah.
There's something
Um,
so therapeutic about writing. And I know that as a therapist, I'm sure that you like that is a tool that we can
absolutely.
all use. But even just putting pen to paper, and I know myself, like I never thought of myself as a writer, but then like when you actually like put pen to paper and just kind of let your story unfold onto paper, not even that you have to be journaling every day or something like that, but even like the work that you do, writing poetry, or some people love like writing songs. I know that was like my thing. I was always like listening to different songs and I would like do different poetry, but
Yeah,
do it to a like some sort of like song kind of beat thing. And it's just so therapeutic for people to have that outlet. And so maybe that's not your outlet if you're listening, but maybe it's art or painting or whatever it is. But I think about like writing, there's something so therapeutic about that.
absolutely. And we know it. We know like it's researched, right? Journaling and writing and all these artistic expressions, like it's incredible for trauma. It's incredible for grief expression and release. And we know that you're working another side of your brain. The clinical side of me is like, I know this works. And then also the personal side of me as a griever and as a human felt it work and knows it works every day. So yes, I'm very pro writing, not about like like I don't care if it's considered good. I know there's a lot of gatekeeping around poetry and a lot of gatekeeping around writing and storytelling and all the different arts, and I'm just not quite about it. I'm just like I don't know. I think if you're writing, you're a writer. I know it's easier said because I still have that about myself, like the imposter syndrome, but I firmly believe that and cheer people on about that. So writing's incredible.
Yeah. Or even like writing Instagram posts or
Yes.
like creating, I think you and I were talking at some point about like Pinterest and how like even seeing something on Pinterest and like create anything that you can do that's creating, right? Even if you
Yes.
don't feel like you're a writer, what is your creative outlet? Because that can be so therapeutic for everyone.
Absolutely. You're working your right side of your brain, and a lot of that shuts down after trauma and stress and all of that. So, anything to access that part of your brain, I think, is just incredibly healing and wonderful. So, yeah.
Sarah, I want to talk about a piece of your own story. You lost your mom to suicide in 2018, and I know that that was a pivotal kind of turning point in a lot of different ways. What can you tell me about that time and that experience, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, and how did that kind of influence your work and your life?
Yes, I try to be very open about this just because I know with suicide loss, there's so much stigma and there's a lot of taboo around it. So I try to, when I talk about it, I try to be very direct about I lost her to suicide. She had struggled with mental health, her entire life, survived many traumas, was working through alcoholism, many failed attempts at support, many failed systems issues had happened for my mom. So I like to talk about it because if anyone else is out there who has lost someone to suicide, I know they know exactly what I'm talking about in terms of the stigma, and there's a lot of shame about it. But I've dealt with grief before. I had lost my grandma, and I've lost people throughout my life, but that loss was definitely the most traumatic. My mom was absolutely my best friend. She was just a pillar in our family and our glue and just an absolute light in our lives. And, we spoke every day. Sometimes maybe a couple days would pass in between, but it was rare. So I, at the time, was single. I didn't have any kids. I was living on my own in Lansing, Michigan, and working, and losing her felt like I just lost everything. It felt like my whole world absolutely crumbled. I didn't really know what my purpose was in life. I ended up losing my job. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I didn't think I'd be able to be a therapist anymore because, if I can't save my mom, who can I save? Who can I help? It was just a really intense, really dark time. But I had a lot of loving people surrounding me. My dad and my siblings and friends and everyone really stepped up. And then I started writing poetry about it, or quotes, or however you want to label it. And that mixed with the support, mixed with therapy, mixed with, sometimes I did some group therapy, but really writing was my thing that I could do alone. I didn't need someone else to be there with me, and that absolutely, like, when I think of like my independent coping, like that was my savior. That was the thing that really did it for me. I just started writing within days of my mom passing away, and it has been my like crutch ever since. Like every stage of grief, whatever those are, and every phase of life and every year that passes, I've just continued to write grief poetry. That's kind of the only thing I really write about at this point.
It's just so therapeutic and it's so important for us, even with grief, right? To talk about it. Even speaking can be so important for us to be able to heal or grieve. And I always talk about grief. You're the expert, Sarah. So
Okay.
but I always talk about grief as like it's a wound that like heals, but there still is that you still can see like the scar, right? So you're carrying
Yes.
that scar with you, and losing your mom who you were so close to is just it's a scar that you carry. And I think that all of us who are listening, we can all relate to that, right? We've all lost someone or something, even people that have lost their animals or something that's really important to them, something that's close to them. And it's grief is something that we carry with us. You don't just get over it, right?
No.
There is this kind of phrase in culture where it's like, oh, just get over it. And it's like, you don't get over it, you carry it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't want to get over it. I'm like, it's a bridge to my mom. It's a bridge to our love. It represents like everything she was and what our relationship was. It still connects me to her. I don't, sometimes it's ugly and it's so brutal and there's trauma attached to the way I lost her and all of that, but I'm not trying to like get over it really anytime soon. I'd like to function, and I definitely found purpose in life again, and that was needed. And I wanted to help other people, and that was something that was really wonderful to stumble upon in life, along with being a therapist still. Um, but yeah, I'm like, I don't really want to get over it, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so sad when you hear people say, because I've even had people say that to me. It's like, well, get over it, like move on. And it's like, well, no, because you're exactly right. That's a connection to the person. And it shows like the fact that you grieve, that you love somebody, it shows like the depth of your love, right? For how
Yes.
long and you're always gonna miss them. It's like I hear
Yes.
a song and I'll be like driving and I hear a song that reminds me of my mom and I start like bawling in the car, and that can be therapeutic. And it's so important for us to find these moments just to like be in our grief, and that's okay. That there are also times you don't want to talk about it, right? You don't want to share with people, or there are things that are like just kind of your own. Then it's like, I want to sit here and just eat bonbons and like cry. We
Yes.
all need those moments too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm like, no one's entitled to it, of course, right? Whatever your expression is, but like you are entitled to your grief, right? And
Yeah.
however that looks, and people are uncomfortable with it. And I think there's a beautiful side to grief and it representing love, and there's also like a not so pretty side to it, right? And the pain and all of that. And I think people want to just focus on the one, the one really lovey-dovey romanticizing it. And it's not always that, and that's healthy too.
Yeah, it's so important for us to have outlets. And that's why, therapy is so good. That's why writing's so good, is to find different outlets and people that we can talk to and share what's going on in our lives. And we all need support. And especially women, we were not made to be an island. We need community. We need people that we can share experiences with. And I'm sure it is like it is hard too to be in a space where, losing your mother to suicide, if somebody hasn't lost someone to suicide, it's like kind of hard to relate. Or, I'm in the camp of like, I've lost somebody to suicide, a family member to suicide. My mom died of cancer, and there are people that like, unless they know somebody that died it close to them, died of cancer, they can't relate. But it's so important for us to find the people that are in our tribe that like can say, Sara, I get it. I know what you're feeling. Like, I know what you're going through, or I don't know exactly what you're going through, but I'm trying to understand and I want to be there for you. It's so important for us to find that tribe.
Absolutely. I mean, it truly takes a village to grieve, especially traumatic loss. And there's very little, I was just talking to someone, I'm like, there's very little losses out there that aren't traumatic, right? If it's sudden or not sudden, if there's suffering or no suffering, depending on age and how and violent or not. I'm like, just so often grief and trauma go hand in hand that, yeah, I don't know. It's just it's going to take an entire community to kind of get through it. And I like just like birthing takes a village, right? When babies are born, I'm like, I think people dying too. And not just death loss, but other forms of grief and other forms of loss. But it's like yeah, I think we need that village. We need that tribe.
The world tells women and girls that they don't matter, that one woman, one girl can't be a revolution. But that's not true. Every woman and every girl is a one girl revolution. Join the Every Woman, Every Girl campaign today by posting a video or graphic on social media telling us why you are a one girl revolution. Tag us, collab with us on Instagram, and shout out a woman or girl who inspires you. Tell us who is a one girl revolution in your life. Together, we are lifting voices, telling stories, and reminding every woman and girl who she really is. Follow along, share your story, and be a part of the movement. Because when every woman and every girl rises, the whole world changes. Join us today at onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com. Sara, you your mama and then you start writing. At what point did you say, you know what? I'm writing in my own journal. Maybe I should share this. Was there like a moment that you were like, I need to start sharing this with the world? How did that come about?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So when I was writing that was not like not grief poetry or not grief quotes, I was writing about like feminism and just so much stuff. At that point, I was working as a sexual assault therapist. So I was just hearing stories, and there was just all these strong women and men and gender expansive folks who were just survivors, right? And I was thinking about the world. I was writing these things. People were like, "Hey, you're sharing this on Facebook. Are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh, this probably looks concerning. These are really intense topics." So I created this Instagram page, had like 10 followers. But before that, I was only sharing these poems with my mom because she was not afraid of the dark stuff. Like, right? She was a trauma survivor. She loved what I was writing. I create this page. I write under Sara Rian. Ryan's my middle name. I'm like, okay, this is pretty private. No one's ever going to know it's me. No one's ever going to see my face. Like, LOL at that now. But when my mom passed, I was in this like, right, I was in this weird cloud of grief, and all I wanted to do was find a way to like immortalize her. And her dream had always been to write a book about her life one day. And she just never got to do that. She never got to write a book. She never got to tell people. And I was like, I don't want my mom to only be known as this person who like died by suicide. I want people to know like how amazing she was, how missed she was. And I just was like, I'm gonna publish a book because then she'll like live forever. I don't know if it was rational, but I ended up self-publishing like my first book like in like a month. Like maybe, no, maybe it was like 2 months after she passed. I just like self-published this book. It is now no longer available because it is so intense. And I'm so protective of those early phases of grief for me that I ended up like pulling it off the shelf. But maybe only like 100 copies were sold by my close friends and family, and they were probably really concerned about this intense stuff I was writing. But that's how I did it. I was like, I'm gonna let my mom live forever, and if I do, like, if I publish these poems about her and what happened, and all about how grieved and how missed she is, I just felt like how cool that my mom will be on everyone's shelves, and like she definitely can't die if she's in a book. And then that's just kind of how it started. And then as I wrote more, I was like, oh, there's enough here for another book. I'll just self-publish another book. And here we are.
It's so incredible what you've done, what you've accomplished. And I will obviously put the link to your website so people can easily buy your books. I love everything that I've read of yours. It's so great. You post a lot of stuff on Instagram as well. So I'll put that in the show notes so people can easily follow everything that you're doing. But you're exactly right about your mom, though. Our legacies continue even after we're gone, right? If people are speaking our name and sharing stories about them, and there's something so important too for us. And I think even you and I were talking about this on the walk a little bit about, once somebody is gone, to still like speak to the next generation, right? Speaking to your children, even about your mom, and telling like the beautiful stories, like, yeah, my mom used to do this, or I
Yeah.
think about that with my mom. My kids will never know my mom, but she can still be a part of their lives by me telling stories about like, oh, my mom used to make me waffles in the morning, on weekends, and then we would do this and she would sing this song and she loved musicals and like all these things. It keeps them alive, right? Without them, like you said, okay, well, it'll immortalize them, not necessarily, but their life continues, their legacy continues through us, and that's really what your mom's legacy has continued through you.
Yes. Absolutely. And then seeing what that can do. I mean, obviously for my own like bloodline, right? My own kids and things, but these books, like they started going into the hands of people that were like, thank you so much for talking about suicide loss. And thank you so much for talking about parent loss or mother loss or all of these things or trauma and all of that. And then I felt like she was living, like she was helping people that she never got to meet, but my mom was such a helper and just she was so loving and so kind and would help people when she had nothing, donate or hand someone on the streets money when she had no money, right? And just sometimes we would get letters in the mail of all these places she's donating, and I'm like, what is going on? She's like, I can't say no. I have to help animals and I have to help veterans, and it was just like, okay, hold on, let's look at our budget, right? So I felt as time went on, I'm like, oh, this isn't just like feeling good for me. This feels like my mom's doing work, right? She's like helping people long after she's gone. And I know that's all she ever wanted was to help people. And if she's helping folks who are also struggled with suicidality or have also lost someone to suicide or struggle with mental health, struggle with loss, struggle with trauma, struggle with feeling powerless, I'm like, now all this writing about her, it's like she's still helping people even after she's no longer here on earth. And that to me is like, that became kind of the new purpose. Like, yes, now she's like on everyone's bookshelves or whatever. And I know she'll like live forever in a way, but knowing she's somehow helping people is just like the coolest thing because she would love that.
Yeah. No, I'm sure she's so proud and she's so excited to be a part of everything that you're doing. And it's she's such a point of connection
Yes.
for, even people that you're working with and people that you're connecting with through your writing. Sara, this podcast is all about stories, right? And I wanted to have you on to share a little bit about your own story. And I'm sure that through the years, you've heard from so many people because of your writing, because of your Instagram page. And you obviously can't tell all of the stories, but is there a particular moment or a story or maybe a poem that you wrote that really resonated with someone where you realize that, wow, I'm really onto something and this is making more of an impact than I ever could have fathomed? Is there a story or two that you could share like that?
Yes. Oh my goodness. There's been so many amazing like connection points. There's been so many like incredible pieces of feed. I remember one is sticking out where I always tell people like I'm not trying to be a professional writer. I just write and I share. I know it's not the best. Like please don't criticize. I don't care, right? Like that's not what I'm here. I'm not trying to get any better. I am who I am. But someone had written a really like bad review about one of my books or something. Like a 1-star review. They said they wish they could have gave it 0 and they wanted to throw the book away. I don't know, and I don't know why I read it. But I read it and it was super intense and it got me down. And I thought, wow, is my stuff that bad? Like, am I humiliating myself? Is this embarrassing? And I posted on my Instagram, like, I was like, I think I might be too like soft for this world. Like, I don't want people to start trying to make me like a writer or whatever. And someone had messaged, I had not spoken to this before, and they had messaged back and they said, I know this is easy for you to take this to heart, but I just want you to know that there was a moment in time where I truly was ready to die. I had a plan. I was ready to execute it. I truly had lost all hope until I read one of your poems on Instagram. And you were the only reason I stayed that day. And I was immediately like in tears and thought to myself, like, wow, I almost let some stupid star review, which doesn't actually matter, I almost let just this random opinion keep me from sharing something that, not to say like I could save someone's life, because I don't mean to be like the savior complex or whatever, but to know that sometimes just one tiny poem on Instagram could be the thing that gives someone hope to stay and maybe find support. Or some people will say, oh, it's so nice to hear from you talking so real, you're a therapist. I'm always so worried about therapists, and are they going to be too clinical and they don't seem real? Are they like you? And I'm like, oh yeah, we're real. Therapists aren't so bad. We're kind of cool. We're kind of messed up too. Like whatever. And just knowing how much that helps somebody, that was like a real turning point where I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care if people are hating on this. I don't care if this isn't real poetry. I don't care what professionals say. I don't actually have to care about making it better. Someone read that and thought, like, I should stay another day and see if it gets better. And I just thought, wow, that's all that really matters. Nothing else. I don't care about anything else. There's nothing else better than that.
It's such an important thing for all of us to think about, right? We talk a lot at One Girl Revolution, and you know this about how every single woman is as unique as her fingerprint. Every single person. It's not, but we focus on women and girls. So we're as unique as our fingerprint. And if we really believed that, how differently we would look at our lives, how differently we would live our lives. And so even for you thinking about like, okay, yeah, I'm like sharing my poetry and posting on Instagram, we don't recognize the power that we have in connecting with other people, right? That we might have an opportunity, something we post or something that we say or something that we write might be that like it was for that person to say, I decided to stay another day because the world can be so isolating. I think social media is so great because it connects so many people, but it also can just feel so isolating. And so we need to find opportunities where we can build bridges or build connection with people no matter where they are. And you're doing exactly that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's incredible. I know people that online is scary and social media is a very scary place. And it has also created such a community. And, I've heard so many stories and I've read so many beautiful poems and stories and narratives and all these things that I'm like, I know there can be a good side to this, and this is one of them. Things like this, right? Multimedia, all these passageways where we get to find village and tribes and all of that. This is like, I'm like, we need more of this. This less of that other stuff. That stuff I can drown out a little bit here. This is what we need more of.
Yeah, exactly. And for so many people too, like when I think about suicide or when I think about mental health struggles or difficulties that people are experiencing, and we all go through it at different stages in life, but a lot of times it's just this moment, right? Like I read an article years and years ago about the jumpers from the Golden Gate Bridge. So people that had jumped off at different points, and they were dealing with whatever they were going through. And there was a story that I read, Sarah, and I will never forget it. It's one of those things that you just like read it and you're like, I will never forget this story. And it was this man that was really struggling. And he was like, I'm going to the bridge. I'm going to jump off. I don't have purpose. I don't need to be here anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. And he tells his whole journey to get to the bridge, and he's waiting at every moment for one person to smile at him, one person to say hello to him. He gets on the bus, then he has to change buses. It's like all of these instances where he's walking to go and jump off the bridge. And at no point did anybody smile at him. Did anybody say anything to him? Did anybody even interact with him in any way? And so he ended up going and he jumped. He survived and he told the story. And I think about that and I think about our daily lives. Every single day, we have opportunities to just see people, whether we're waiting in line at the coffee shop or we never know what other people are going through. I know that that gets thrown a lot around a lot, but you don't, right? Somebody cuts you off and it's like, what if we can be the person that gives that other person who's struggling a little beacon of light or a little beacon of hope? And I think that's such an important thing for all of us to reflect on.
Absolutely. And that was my mom. She would be having the worst day. She would be having flashbacks or something with anything. And that woman would smile at everyone to the sometimes where I'm like, okay, people are coming over to talk to us. Now you've done it. And she's like, oh, you have this, right? You have this gene. People are drawn to you. You smile, right? They want to come tell you their stories. Like you have it. Like I've passed that on to you. And I'm like, oh, and it's a blessing and a curse, but it really is a blessing. Like, because I realize it's time to slow down when someone's talking to you in the grocery store or a woman comes over and tells me about she remembers when her kids were young and stuff. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to pause and I'm going to listen because I don't know how long it's been since you've been able to talk to somebody, right? So I'm smiling at everybody. I think we need that. And I also, some of the not so pretty stuff. Like I'm a licensed social worker, so I'm also advocating. I've gone to protests. Like sometimes I do the stuff that isn't just a smile, but to say like I care about people and I care about their rights or their well-being. So just that whole like it's not this like individualistic thing of just like it's me and my own world and I need to get back home. It's just kind of like, wait a second. I don't want to lose the human connection ever.
Yeah, it's so important in this day and age that we need to connect with one another more than ever. And also on the flip side of the coin, too, Sarah, I want to ask you about this is we also can't beat ourselves up if something does happen, right? Like, oh, well, I should have called, my family member, or I wasn't there for them in the way that they wanted. We should be opening our eyes and looking for opportunities, but everybody's on their own journey too. And so we also, on the flip side, can't beat ourselves up if we aren't there for somebody that needs us.
Absolutely. And it's so with suicide loss or with so many things, I'm like, part of this is like you are going to have so many regrets. And people are constantly, people say, like, I tried to outrun it. Like, I thought I did everything. I'm like, even if you did everything right, it still could have happened that exact way, or your grief would still find something to try to like blame or to, right? That's just that's human behavior. That's how our brains work. But that like with suicide loss, I'm like I was a therapist long before I lost my mom. I worked on suicide prevention hotlines and programs, right? I was trained, did everything, and I was still the last person to talk to her, and she still died within minutes of speaking to me, right? Like I still didn't get to her on time or intervene in just the right way. And I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, I get this is where people, it's very easy to blame yourself. It's very easy to try to take on all responsibility. And that's just grief and loss. I was like, it's complicated and it comes with a lot of this, right? If I would have known the diagnosis sooner, if I would have noticed how they looked, if I would have noticed the seatbelt wasn't the right way, all of these things. And we have a lot of power, but we don't have that much power, right? We have a lot of power to smile at someone, but maybe not exactly to like save someone's life. But, that balance, it's tricky.
It's really hard. It's hard for us to, you're exactly right. It's tricky to find that balance, but it is really important for us to raise awareness, to have
Yes.
conversations like this, to share resources. Again, like I think that your Instagram page and your books are so beautiful, and I encourage everybody to read them and share them. And, what a cool thing just to gift to people. I know that I've gifted some of your books to people, and it's like, I don't like, I thought you might want to have this, and just
Yeah.
kind of, and people will take, that's the beautiful thing about poetry too, is people will take what they want from it, right? It's just like so beautiful to see that. Or book clubs, right? Creating spaces for women to actually have conversations. Like, how cool would that be? And I'm sure you've already had people do that, like take your books and your books of poetry and do a book club with it and like talk about
Yeah.
the things that stuck out to you, or what are things that resonated with you, really to create these spaces for us to share our stories and share our own experiences. We need to create more opportunities for that.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I love about poetry, especially like when it's general. Like most people, they don't, now they know because I talk about it more often, but people didn't know who I lost. They thought I lost a child. They thought I lost my husband. They didn't know if I lost a parent. They don't know if I'm talking about pet loss. And I was like, in the beginning, my earlier stuff was so much more specific. You could tell maybe it was suicide. You could tell it was my mom. You could tell it was, and then now it's gotten just more broad. I write broadly about grief and loss. And I kind of loved that though, because when I go to a book club or an event, they're like, oh, when I read this, I thought of my husband. When I read this, I thought of my cousin, my best friend. I thought of my sweet soul dog. And I'm like, awesome. Like, I love it specific, and that's great to feel so heard in something so specific. And also the general stuff when you're picturing someone's face or you're picturing somebody, and it's not even close to the person I'm picturing, but it still applies and you still feel seen and heard. And, that's what I do love about poetry is I feel like it just applies to so many things and so many people.
Yeah, no, I love it so much. And yeah, I'm so excited to share more of your work with our audience and continue to follow and share everything that you're doing. Every woman, every girl. The world tells them they don't matter, but we know the truth. Every woman and every girl is a one girl revolution. Through the Every Woman, Every Girl campaign, we're telling powerful stories, lifting voices, and reminding women and girls everywhere of their worth, their purpose, and the power that they hold to change the world. But we can't do it without you. Your donation helps us share more stories, reach more women and girls, and change more lives. Join the movement today. Support the campaign. Donate at onegirlrevolution.com/donate. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com/donate. Because when every woman and every girl rises, the whole world changes. Sara, as a writer and as a therapist, what have you found for yourself to be the most healing or maybe helpful tools that you found that have been helpful? I know that every person's story, every person's journey is different, but it might be helpful for some people that are listening. What are some helpful tools or healing tools that have helped you?
Yes, I mean, I'm very pro therapy. I'm very like, you don't have to do everything on your own. I'm very much about co-regulating and doing things with other humans, right? Sitting with another nervous system in the room and, vibing with each other's energy and all of that. I'm very much about that. Like I said, the group support, if you even just clubs or something like that, just being around other humans, even if it's crocheting or bowling or those things that we've lost, especially during the pandemic, if you can safely gather in groups, I think that was so helpful. It obviously got removed like in my grieving, but that was very helpful in those couple of years before COVID had hit. Being around people, even if it wasn't, sharing about grief. And then obviously writing, and I mean just journaling or typing in your notes app or, remembering that if you go through hard times, whether it's just extreme stress, poverty, trauma, loss, whatever it might be, anything, you're going to be working with like less energy, right? And your comprehension might come down. You're going to get, foggy, and it's going to be difficult maybe to read some textbooks. It's going to be difficult to do the big books with all this information, all this education. So like I did, I grabbed onto poems that were one sentence, two sentence, minimalist, very small. It wasn't hard to comprehend. I love metaphors and trying to figure things out, but my brain could not do that when I was going through a hard time. I could not like read between the lines and the symbolism. I needed it pretty straightforward and I needed it short and sweet. So I highly recommend like short poetry or grief quotes or just quotes about life and love and adding art to it. That always helped when there was visuals with it. I didn't have to focus so much on words. So the arts and poetry and things like that, if you're just looking for something that's not so intellectual, but there's nothing against textbooks and all that. It's just understanding that your brain might not be ready to chew on that just yet if you're extremely stressed.
Yeah, it's so important for all of us to also think about like we're as unique as our fingerprint, right? And so is our journey. So we might have friends or other people around us that are like, hey, this worked for me. This book is, saved my life, or this book did this. And it's like we also need to recognize that we're as unique and our journey is that unique. And so if somebody shares something with you, great, definitely check it out. But don't beat yourself up if it doesn't resonate with you in the same way. We all need to find the thing or the things that are going to help us. But community is key. I think that's so important for all of us.
Yes, absolutely. That was a big part. I think it's very difficult to heal in isolation.
Sara, you're just such a beacon of light and you've been through so much in your life. I know you've experienced so much, some of what you've shared on this podcast, but also so much more. If you could get to the very root of why you do what you do every single day as a therapist, as a writer, what would you say that root is? Because I'm thinking about your story and you easily could have lost your mom and been like, I'm done with this therapy thing. I'm just going to write for myself, like I love writing, but you have really opened your heart, opened your life, and you've shared that with the world. If you could get to the root of why you care so deeply and why you do the work that you do, what would you say that is?
Yeah, oh my gosh, it's such a I guess it all goes back to when I was 12 and my mom was walking out of a very difficult therapy session. And I don't know how I got with her or what I was doing, but we were together and she was crying. And I said, why are you crying? And she said, there's just some people that they're supposed to be helpers and they're supposed to be kind, and sometimes they're not. And she was talking about her counselor. And they had, I don't know, had spoken in a very shamey way or something had happened. And I said, I'm going to do that. I think I said counselor. I'm going to be a counselor. And I want to sit with people and like, I don't ever want to make them cry. And I was so dedicated to sitting down. And I just always imagined there would be someone like my mom who had just been, you know, put through it in life. And I wanted to be someone that they forever remembered as someone who just like unconditionally cared about them and showed them that they were like worthy of healing and support without judgment, no matter like what was going on. And that was like when I really knew like what I wanted to do. And I think that happens with the writing too. I'm just like, I want everyone to know they're like seen and they're worthy of feeling better and they're worthy of feeling safe and they're worthy of being on this earth and being happy and fulfilled on it, not just surviving, not just being told to stay and be miserable. So I think like I know I can't save people and I'm not going to be able to save like millions or anything like that. That's not the point. obviously, but to know that I could provide even just a small like moment with someone to say like I see you and like you're safe and I'm here and I'm listening and your story matters. That that might be all it is, and I don't know how much bigger it'll go than that, but that feels like worth every bit of it to me.
Sarah, you've accomplished so much in your life and in your work. What are you most proud of in your life and work, if you could point to one thing?
Gosh, I immediately wanted to say like the way I got to be with my mom. Um, it was very hard to go through life with someone who was really struggling with suicidality and chronic suicidality. And I actually am really proud of myself on how empathetic I stayed, and I never let it harden me. And I stayed very present with my mom and other folks who were struggling. And I think it actually made me softer and more understanding and it could have been something that really hardened me, and sometimes that does happen for folks and I don't think they're at fault for that, but actually yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself for growing up with suicidality, losing my mom to suicide, and still like really understanding and not just sitting in a place of anger.
Yeah, you are
Mhm.
so resilient and you're such a beacon of light and everything that you do, it's just shining light onto others. And I'm just so grateful for you, Sarah. You have so much wisdom, and I know that you have so much to share with our listeners. So I'd love to ask you about advice. So there are women and girls who are listening who might have a story to tell and they don't know where to start, or maybe they have a dream that they're chasing and they don't know where to start. What advice would you give to somebody who's listening who's experiencing that?
Oh my gosh, I just want to be like, scream it. Like, I know it's not that easy, but I'm like, go to the nearest, like, woman that you love and loves you and say, like, help me or help me get this out or how do I get started? Like, you don't have to just go from, I have this story and now it needs to be like a New York Times bestseller or it needs to be in a book, but put it out there, speak it, write it. If you feel comfortable sharing it, right? But even just in your personal life, like let someone know you have this thing and I don't know, just kind of put it into the world. We need it. We especially need it from women and girls. I'm like, our voices have been silenced and we've been quieted for so long. I'm just like, please just take up space with what you have. Just take up space, please. We have been shrinking ourselves for way too long.
Yeah, we need to speak up and use our voices. And I love that. Find one person that you know believes in you, because you're also going to get a lot of people, and you will get people too that you think support you and
Yes.
think are going to be really excited and they're not. And so you have to be ready for
Yeah.
that too and be like, all right, move on to the next one. Somebody is
Yeah.
going to support you, and we all need at least a cheerleader, right? Even how you
Yes.
shared about your mom being like, she loved everything that you were doing and such a great cheerleader, and we all need somebody like that. We need people in our lives like that to
Yes.
cheer us on.
Absolutely.
Sarah, what about women and girls that feel lost, or maybe they don't feel like they have purpose, or they don't know what their purpose is and they're searching for it? What
Mm.
advice would you give to somebody like that?
Mm. That's such a good question too. I think there's so much dialogue around purpose and it always seems like it has to be so big and so extreme and this macro level and it needs to be like celebrity status or seen by millions. And I feel like every person has a purpose. It's like I just want to tell every little girl, like, you're here for a reason, and it may not be to like serve anybody or perform, but you're here for a reason. And it's okay if you don't know what that is yet. Even you just deserve to be here, even if you don't have a huge purpose that you know of, or even if that purpose isn't touching millions of lives. I'm just like, just you being here is so important. The fact that you are here and you exist and you're breathing and you're worth just because you are alive means you're worthy of, again, taking up space here. And that alone is purpose. And like it gets to be what you want it to be. It gets to be fulfilling for you. And I think so often women and girls are told that their purpose is serving others or some kind of performance and it's inauthentic and all that. And I'm just like, to broaden our idea of what purpose is. And it's not always being a mom or being a wife or being polite. It's not always that. And so it's just kind of like, as we are feeling a little lost and we wander and we look, let's really reframe what purpose might be here. But just existing is sometimes purpose, and you're worthy of that.
That leads me to my next question because, as you know, I believe that every single woman and girl is a one girl revolution. And that's why we're really focusing on this Every Woman, Every Girl campaign and interviewing women like yourself who are just doing extraordinary things in their careers and their lives. And if we really believed that we were a one girl revolution, how differently we would live our lives. But I'm curious to know, what does one girl revolution mean to you? How would you define what a one girl revolution is?
Gosh, whenever I hear it and I follow your stuff and I love it, I truly just, to me, it feels like it takes one girl or woman, someone to step kind of out of line, the line that's been handed to us for so long. That to me is a revolution, whether people see it or not, whether it is, people around or not, just stepping out of the line that you've been told to stand on or walk on. To me, like that's it. That's it. It takes one person to do that, to really say like, I'm gonna throw a wrench in this and I'm gonna shake this up and it doesn't have to be this way. That's what I like. I just picture like someone stepping off the line and saying like, nope, right?
I love that definition, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And I love that visual too. I'm like always going to be thinking about that now, but you're exactly right. It just takes one. It takes one. And the power that women have, right? When we share our stories, and even that's your story, it's like when you have used your voice, when you've used your writing, that you have stepped out and shared your own experiences, your own life, that gives other women and other girls courage to step out of line and stand up and speak. So thank you for everything that you're doing. And I love that definition. So on that note, who is a one girl revolution in your life? Who is a woman or girl that inspires you in that way?
Mm. My grandma and my mom, they were revolutionary. They did things that were non-traditional. They did what they needed to do, no matter what society was telling them. They raised strong kids with incredible messages, and they knew right from wrong. And, no one will ever know them besides our small, small family, but they were Grams and Mom. They were one girl revolution through and through.
Well,
Mhm.
shout out to them, and their legacy continues to live out through you, Sarah, and everything that you're doing. And I can't wait to see where you go from here. What's next for you? What are some things that you're working on? I'll obviously put your website, your social media so people can easily follow, but what's on the horizon for you?
I am working on my next book. I'm actually seeing if I can get it out before the end of the year. We're seeing, but I have just been kind of plugging away and hoping to get another poetry book out. It feels like it's time, and I just kind of go with my gut feeling when it feels like it's time. So yeah, I'm working on that, and I'm hopefully, yeah, it's out before, the end of the year.
That's amazing. Well, I will obviously stay in touch. I'll keep promoting. I always say that on this with One Girl Revolution, you're now a part of the sisterhood. You are always a part of the sisterhood,
Yeah.
but now it's official. You've been on the podcast, but we always promote everything that anybody who's been on the podcast, we continue to promote their stories and their work. So as the book comes out, we'll obviously promote it. And as your future books and projects come out, we'll continue to promote them. But Sarah, before I let you go, I always end this podcast on one question. So I'd like to ask you, if you could leave women and girls around the world with one message, what would it be?
Take up space. Take up so much space. That'd be it. Take up space, please.
Sarah, you are such an example of that. I'm so grateful to know you. Thank you so much for everything that you do, everything that you are, and thank you so much for being on the One Girl Revolution podcast.
Thank you so much. It's an honor.
For more from One Girl Revolution, to listen to all of our podcast episodes, watch our Emmy nominated documentary series, follow us on social media, donate to our nonprofit organization, and more, please visit onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com.